epic proportions. This is the farthest thing you can imagine from smart, efficient government. And we've been told that you either have two choices. You either raise taxes or cut services. It's not true. There is a third way. We can run this government far more efficiently for the benefit of the taxpayers. And then last but not least is the kindergarten through 12th grade education system. As I said, it is not acceptable that the vast majority of children in California are not getting a world-class education. There are many fine public schools in California. Maybe some of your children or grandchildren go to them, but the vast majority are not doing the job. So we are going to have to get about this. So it's not that other things don't matter. They do. But if we don't fix these three things, I'm not sure that we will ever get to anything else that matters to many of you in this room. So how are we going to do that? Let me give you a few ideas in each of the categories. So first is jobs. The first thing I want to do is I want to call for a moratorium on all new regulations in California. As I have traveled this state, I expected to get an earful on taxes, and I have, and I'll come back to taxes. But actually, when you talk to business people running businesses of all sizes, they will tell you that if you could do one thing, it would be to streamline regulation. So let's call for a moratorium on all new regulations, and then let's sort through what we have. Let's remove the duplication. Let's make it easy to open a small business. Let's make it easy to expand by creating a master application where you put all of your information into one application, and then behind the scenes, the government is helping you out. You know, it's interesting. When I was the CEO of eBay, we wanted to build a new building in Silicon Valley for our subsidiary PayPal. Many of you probably know eBay owns PayPal. It was going to be 3,000 white-collar jobs in the heart of Silicon Valley. I thought that the government of the state of California would be my new best friend. How can we help you get this building built faster? How can we get these 3,000 people to work? Hardly. 2.5 years later, 25 permits, 3 consulting firms to navigate the labyrinth of California regulations. We were finally able to break ground. But the truth is, it's not competitive with a state like Texas or a state like Colorado. So first is regulations. I also want to look very carefully at things like workplace flexibility and rules. This is a small thing, but I don't know how many of you know, but in California, we're one of a handful of states that if you work 10 hours a day for 4 days a week, your employer still has to pay you 2 hours of overtime every day. So if you work 40 hours over 5 days, fine. If you work 40 hours over 4 days, your employer has to pay you overtime, which creates all kinds of issues for a number of people. I know at eBay, we have lots of women who wanted to work 10 hours a day for 4 days a week. In California, it's not acceptable. Meal and rest periods are creating all kinds of challenges for our retail establishments, for our hospitality establishments. So let's work on reforming regulation, streamlining regulation, and making this the very best place to open a business and to grow a business. Second is taxes. Now my view is that I would very much like to enact an across-the-board tax cut. We pay the highest corporate tax rates, the highest individual tax rates, and the highest sales tax rates. My view is right now that's actually not practical, not facing a $20 billion budget deficit. So let's provide targeted tax relief. If you come back to my notion that if the first priority is to create jobs in California and keep jobs in California, then let's put tax relief in that leads immediately to hiring. I'll give you a couple of examples. We have something in California called the factory tax. Meaning, if you are a manufacturer in California, you have to pay sales tax on the equipment that you buy to manufacture in the state. We're one of only 3 states in the whole country that requires that. It's the best reason that manufacturers have to go to a Nevada, to go to Oregon, to go to a Utah. So let's eliminate the factory tax. Let's increase the R&D tax credit. California is the home to innovation. The day we lose our innovation edge is the day we have even bigger problems on our hands. So let's increase the R&D tax credit to 20% so it comports with the federal level. Let's take a look at making it easier to start new businesses. This is a small example, but did you know one of the biggest stop signs that entrepreneurs face when they want to start their own business is you have to pay an $800 fee to open an LLC in California. And $800 might not seem much to some of you, but I tell you, if you are going to quit your day job, you're going to hire a couple people, you don't know when the revenue is going to come in. My eBay sellers told me all the time that $800 was a big barrier to starting their own business in California. And then last but not least on jobs, we're going to have to stand up and compete. 30 years ago, I don't think we had much competition from neighboring states. We were the Golden State. We were where everyone wanted to be. But I will tell you, Colorado, Utah, Texas, they are competing for our jobs. I don't know if you saw over Valentine's Day, but the governor of Colorado sent Valentine's Day cards to the CEOs of the major companies in California, trying to entice them to come to Colorado. And the card said, "Colorado loves California." So we are going to have to compete. And what I will do is I will be on the phones making sure that we know what companies are thinking about leaving, where they're thinking of going, where they're thinking of expanding, and then what companies can we bring back to California. And you know what broke my heart was, I don't know if you read, but Northrop Grumman, the last aerospace headquarters that was headquartered in Long Beach, California, is leaving for Virginia. They're not leaving for India or China or Eastern Europe or Australia. They're leaving for Virginia. And you know what? That is just wrong. That was a signature industry for California. And people said, well, it's only 300 people at headquarters. Well, you know what happens when headquarters leaves. So this is the kind of thing we're going to have to do. So first is jobs. Second is spending. I think there's $15 billion worth of spending cuts that we can make that would actually make this government run far more efficiently and effectively. Things like utilizing technology to do things more effectively. Streamlining the government workforce, down by 40,000 people. Here's an interesting story for you. Today, the revenues in the state of California are about $83 to $85 billion in the general fund, down from over $100 billion several years ago. So I asked the question, when was the last time revenues in California were at that level? It turns out it was 2004, 2005. I then asked the next question, which is, and how many people did we have working for the state just 5 years ago? 40,000 fewer. Today we have 357,000 people who work for the state of California. So let's do things more efficiently so we can run the state with fewer people. And we can get there through attrition. About 10,000 civil servants retire every year. If we didn't hire anyone for 3 years, we'd be back down to where we were 5 years ago. So those are the kinds of things I want to look at. We've got to look at welfare reform, we've got to look at pension reform. We can talk about some of those in the question and answer. And then last but not least is our kindergarten through 12th grade education system. So everyone talks about this, and we actually have to change the trajectory here. So I want to do 3 things. And I am a big believer in the 80-20. What is 20% of the reforms that you can get that will get you 80% of the way home? And I think these are the 3 that we have to look at very carefully in California. First, we've got to grade every single public school a simple letter grade, A through F, so that every parent knows how good or not so good their child's school is. Now you can find that out today in California. There's 10 factors. You have to look quite carefully. It's hard to compare. But let's give every single school a very transparent letter grade. They did this in Florida, and you know what happened? They said it increased parent involvement dramatically, because when you told parents their son or daughter was in an F school, they were pretty interested in that. Then I think we need to increase the number of charter schools. Charter schools simply do a better job around teaching our children. Not every charter school is perfect, but on average they do a better job because the principals have more authority. And I think we've got to remove the cap on charter schools. I don't know how many of you know, we have a cap on charter schools in California, and we have to increase that number dramatically. Because A, they do a better job, but B, it also gives parents choice. So if your child is in a D school, you have someplace to go. And then last, we've got to pay the better teachers more. The gems of our education system are the great teachers. Big class sizes, small class sizes, not such good facilities, great facilities. Actually, the teachers make all the difference. So let's find a way to identify the great teachers and pay them more. And you might be saying, well, how in the world are you going to do that in a budget crisis? Well, we have to look at how we spend the $50 billion that the state government spends every year on public education. Plus we get another $20 billion from the federal government. It's hard to know exactly, but roughly 50 to 60% of that spend actually goes to overhead, not to in-classroom spending. So let's say it's 50%. Could we move some of that so we had 60% in the classroom, 40% in administration and overhead? Because that's where the learning takes place. That's where the English as a second language learners are. That's where the gifted students are. That's where the special needs kids are. So I want to focus, as I said, on 3 things. Creating and keeping jobs in California, cutting government spending so we can choose to make investments into the things we really care about, and then finally, fixing our K through 12 education system.